It's a great day. My name is Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to empower. Our mission is to inspire, and our mission really is to provide you, that's right, you, the hard-working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. In this episode, we have the one and only Dr. Velma. She's in the building, and she'll be talking about dating, love, and marriage. This should be interesting. Can't wait to have the conversation. How are you doing, Doc?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Finally, I'm excited.
Well, I'm excited to have you here as well. And let me just address the elephant in the room because I know everyone has to be asking, Shay, what in the LL Cool J is healthy love? And what does that even look like when you're, I don't know, dating or in a marriage today? I know it's a loaded question, but if we can start there, we'll have some framework what we're going to be talking about.
It's not loaded at all. I've been married. My husband and I just celebrated 52 years together. We met in 10th grade high school. Back in the 50s, 60s, we were prepared differently for that whole question you just asked. And I found myself questioning why so many people were failing at finding what we were able to discover because we were prepared differently. And I decided that it was time to talk about it. It was time to talk about the things that I was trained and understood. And so we've lost that pattern. I'm a faith based speaker, I am an ordained minister. So everything comes from what we've already been given. And what's sad about it is we forgot it's there.
So, what does healthy love look like then? Tell me about that.
Healthy love looks like showing grace when your partner is having challenges, understanding and being forgiving, and understanding that us becoming as one and operating as one requires that I understand his perspective as well as he understands mine. And then showing a level of respect in that manner. Healthy love is managing each other and each other's preferences and challenges and commitments throughout the day and giving that kind of support. And showing grace means just stepping back and not always, but just showing grace to each other. And so living in a way that helps us both to live and survive based on who each of us are. And so I think that's all healthy love
Wow, 52
because
years
love is
married.
unconditional. It's unconditional. It really is. And what happens is we go into relationships making conditions, citing rules. No such thing.
Well, you've been married for 52 years. Unconditional means different things to different folks. When you say unconditional, take a moment just to find that for the person that's watching right now.
Well, to give you an example, there are certain things I did not know about my husband initially that I discovered when we hit a rough patch. And I just finished another book, by the way, that describes our story. We're always asked, well, 52 years, how did you do it? What's the secret? There is no magic bullet and no secret pill. It's about learning how to manage who you've been given, who you've been blessed, and see it as a blessing, not as a curse, so that you learn how to make adjustments based on that. And there were certain things I didn't discover about my husband until maybe about 20 years in, I discovered more about his childhood. It was traumatic. So it helped me to understand some of the things that I noticed about him. And it helped me to show more grace in that manner because now I understood the boy my husband used to be and what he had to endure. So now that he's that man that I'm married to, then I show grace and patience and all of that. But when you don't know those things, you can be very judgmental, very harsh, very unforgiving, all of those things. And so, therefore, healthy love requires that you have to bring all of that to the table. Sometimes it's me being quiet and not saying a word and just lifting him up before God so that God can reveal what needs to be revealed. Sometimes it's just being quiet. Sometimes it's just being there, being silent, showing love, showing support. But it's not always about the yin and the yang. It really is finding a way to manage each other and what we each had to endure because two different people raised two different ways, two different rules in their household, and then you have to bring that together. And God says, okay, now I want you to operate as one. How do you get there? You don't get there by making him act like you or him making you act like him. You get there by taking the two of what you both bring and learning how to manage those two things together.
Well said, by the way. I love that. Well said, well phrased. Um, you know, at the risk of sounding kind of not sarcastic, but curious,
You just go
why
ahead.
well, why do some people struggle so much to find the right partner when they want to be in love? Is there anything that you've seen out there?
I see it all the time. When I started this journey, by the way, I had just retired out of corporate, 38 years in state government as a deputy administrator, and I was not about to write anymore. I did a lot of writing, developing programs and training and things of that nature. And I said, oh, let me just put this in the retirement box. And God let me know, no, you've been blessed with over 40 years of marriage. You need to share it with other people. Other people need to know what steps you both took to discover each other. And so I began by writing my very first book that ended up, you see it on the top shelf, ended up being a 5 book series. It so um, resonated with women. That's who I started out talking to, resonated with women. And I used fish characters to describe the wrong kind of men I've watched women date and then the wrong method they use in dating them, because I talk about conditions, which is what you see on the outside, versus quality characteristics, which you can only find in the inside of that person. So that is what I talked about. The catfish, for instance, who loves garbage, and that's all he wants to date is garbage. The sturgeon who likes to nibble, he's not committed to anything. And then there's the salmon, who's one of the most popular fishermen in tournaments love to catch because he's so powerful, but he'll fly out of the water trying to knock the hook out of his mouth. That's how powerful he is, because he hates commitment, and there's nothing you're going to do that's going to make him commit. And then you have what's called, I call the puffer fish. Now he comes across with human like eyes and a human like face. He may be attractive, but agitate him, get on his nerve, and he puffs up 10 times his size and has poisonous points coming out. So those are examples of the men or the fish I use to describe the men that women tend to gravitate towards, because it's not about what he looks on the outside. Those are all conditions. And I always say, look, I don't look like I looked when my husband married me, 20 years old, walking down the aisle, and he doesn't look like he looked. The afro is gone. Elvis has left the building. And so, what do you do when conditions disappear? Do you leave? Do you say, I didn't sign up for this? Because I heard a woman make that statement too. But you have to understand conditions are those things that will change. And if you fall in love with just conditions, then you got a problem when those conditions begin to leave. It's important to gravitate towards those quality characteristics, and the only way you're going to get there is to stop the emotions from falling in love, and take your time to fall in love with what you discover about that person, whether male or female. So the men, I didn't know I had a small pocket of men reading the series too, and they said, well, Dr. Velma, when are you going to talk about the wrong women to date? So that became book number 3. She'll tear down the house if you're not careful picking the right one. All the things you've built for yourself, she'll come in and tear it all down because she doesn't know how to handle success.
Well, you
You
can't
look
leave
at
us
conditions
hanging.
too.
I mean, you can't leave us hanging. I mean, I'm married, by the way, but there's some guys that say, wait a minute, you said all these things about men. I mean, what are some of the characteristics of the women that are in the book? Now, y'all got to get the
Oh
book,
yeah,
but don't worry. I'm going to ask her to talk about these type of women for the guys that are
of
watching. I know
course.
there's some guys out there that are curious.
I
It's
used
for you guys.
insects, I used animals, I used the hyena. People love hearing the hyena screaming and hollering at night, but a hyena is really led by the female. She's the one that's in charge of the pack. So God never called the woman to lead the home. He didn't tell her to be in charge. Yeah, she's a co-leader with her husband, but she's not the one to bark the orders. And that's what a hyena does. I used the black widow spider. She's only interested in mating with you so she can have the children she wanted. And there's so many women who set out to do those kind of things, meet you just so that she can achieve the goals she wants to achieve through you. And after that's done, she's done with you. So that's a couple. I just wanted to share a couple with you. The hyena barking orders, the black widow spider. There's a few more in there I think are really interesting. And what I did was I went back to a few of my guy friends and asked them, what are some of the challenges you're having in dating? Took their perspective, included it in the book, and walked from there. Because I find that if you weave truth in fiction, it's received better. then you
Mm.
like you're barking or preaching at someone. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to come across in a way that people would receive it easier, and that's exactly what it did.
That is perfect. So, as you told us about your background, we first started married for 52 years and so forth. Amazing. Congratulations. You certainly earned the right to talk
Thank
about the
you.
topic. You understand it. So, what should someone do that wants to, what should they do to be prepared themselves before they get into a serious relationship? Someone's okay. I see what she's saying, Shay. Is there one, two, or three ideas, suggestions she should do that I can do so that I can be
Right.
prepared before entering a real serious relationship? Any recommendations?
The goal is what's your goal? If you're just looking to get into a relationship, then I don't need to tell you anything. Just do what you've always been doing, which is what everybody's doing now. But if your goal is marriage, then it changes your approach because you won't even start a conversation unless it's someone that you feel that looks like or appears to have some of the qualities or traits that you're looking for. And I can tell everybody, if you're looking for a man of God, woman of God, stop looking down at the church building. That's the hospital. That's where everybody goes to get fixed. That's not what you you want to do. I always start with my husband to be prayerless, which is what I was taught when I discovered my husband. I met my husband 2 weeks after I wrote that prayer list and told God, okay, I don't have the faith that moves mountains, but I do know that you do what you do well. And so if there's a man out there for me, I'm asking you to send it. And so here's what I want. I want a man 6 feet, God, and I want him to have bold legs. Now, if you'll notice at the top of my list were conditions, because at the time I was 16, I didn't know about what I know now to put those qualities on there. And that's what I encourage women to do. If you believe that God has a man out there for you, and I believe he does, two things have to happen. One, you must prepare yourself. It doesn't make sense for you to look for a husband and you're not prepared to be a wife. You're not prepared to be his partner. You're not prepared to move into the space that you've been given and work at becoming one with him. And so that's what I found is missing in most women. They want somebody, but they haven't done anything to prepare themselves for what they're about to take on because it's not a temporary commitment. You should be going into it saying, this is it. My husband and I looked at each other and said, look at this face. It's not going anywhere. He said, look at my face. It's not going anywhere. I said, okay, then we're going to make this thing work.
I love it. And as you was talking about that and with your list is and your commitment and helping us prepare to go in a relationship, I'm gonna go to the other side. I mean, I'm on my third marriage. We've been together now, 16 years. So I'm
Hmm.
blessed. But for the person that might have been like Shay Brown years ago, that's been hurt by love. Now, maybe I'm the only one out there, but if they've been
No, you're not.
hurt by love, what would you suggest some things they can do to believe that love is possible again for them? And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm just curious because someone might
No,
be
it's
saying, Shay,
okay.
I've been hurt. She don't understand. I had all that and it still didn't work out. I'm sorry. I'm just, but I'm curious. What do you say to that person watching?
You had it, but were you ready? Were you ready at that time? It could be that the one that you were ready for is the one you have right now. And so, if we take the approach of making sure we're prepared, whether you're male or female, making sure that you're prepared for what you want God to give you. And many cases we're not. And that was my whole idea. My point of making earlier, the point that I made earlier was that you have to make sure you spend some time getting yourself ready. Now, if you've been hurt in the past, I always say that Paul in scripture tells us to lay aside every weight and sin. So, therefore, if you're dragging around past hurt, past disappointment, it's you've got to work at letting that stuff go. It's not time for someone to come into your life until all of that has been cleared out of your heart. Because I want you to know that if you run into an injured dog and that dog paw is injured and you're a person that wants to help that dog doesn't know that you're reaching not to hurt them some more, but you're reaching towards that injured paw to wrap it up and bandage and make sure it can heal. But that dog doesn't know that. That dog just knows that they're injured, and so they will bite you. So when you carry things around, you will filter a very good person who could be the great opportunity you've been waiting for, but you will filter them through your hurt. And guess what happens? You're like that dog. At some point, that person's going to get bitten by what you've been hurt about. So it's important for us to clear out all the clutter and let all that stuff go. And if you haven't done that yet, You have to do that because if you don't, you're carrying that around and eventually it's going to harm a very good thing. The very thing you've been waiting to come into your life, it would harm that. And there you are again, waiting for the next round.
Says so well, and I think as you said, waiting for the next round, I think it's a perfect segue. And thanks for being so
Hmm.
authentic, so open, so truthful. A segue we have here called "Today is my January 1st," and this is when we find out if your life has always been perfect or has there been some setback in your life. But for those folks who tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you know what we're about to do. In fact, you can go ahead and say those magical words. Today is my January 1st. Happy New Year to you. And for all the other folks who are tuning in for the very first time, thanks so much for watching the show. You have a lot of choices and you choose to be with us, and we appreciate that. Today is my January 1st is our personal mantra at the Happy Entrepreneur Show. It represents a fresh start. It really does. It represents a do-over. It means our past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is or how bright and sunny that past is back there, the past no longer equals the future. And so my question for Dr. Velma on the other side is really twofold. Number one,
Hmm.
just when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what goes to your mind? And number two, was there ever a challenge in your life, ever a setback that you had, and how were you able to bounce back for it? Maybe your life's been perfect, but we'll figure that out in a moment.
Yeah, I have had several. If it's related to just me personally, related to my marriage, all of that. I just wrote about a story about my husband and I. People wanted to know more. So the book is coming out soon, but there's a segment, big segment in the book I call The Dark Days, when the marriage became messy. And I began to talk about what we had to do to get around it. My January 1st, I always approach it from it's like a brand new day. January 1st is just a brand new day. And I always try to leave the past in the prior day. I try not to take anything from the past into a new day. So January 1st is the same thing. Everything in that prior year, I leave in the prior year. I try to do a sweep of my life and my walk to make sure those things are gone and that I let go because I don't want anything to get in the way of my moving forward to what I know I've been called to do. I don't want anything to weigh me down. And if I let that come into this new day, January 1, then I'm already weighing down myself and won't be able to move at the speed I should because I'm still carrying a whole bunch of junk. And so I try to, as a commitment to God, is to let that stuff go automatically. I'm always looking to get a wisdom in a brand new day, a brand new year. I want to know what God has for me to do this year. I want to know what's my assignment. I want to know what is it that He's called me to do. Anytime I'm writing, that's my question. God, what do I write about now? I would not have automatically chosen to be transparent about our personal lives, my husband and our marriage, but this book that's coming out, that's what I do. And it's because God led me to do. I wrote 25,000 words. And I remember I thought, oh, wow, I'm almost ready to release this book in time for our anniversary, February 16th, 2026. This is going to be perfect. And what did God do? Tap me on the shoulder and said, no, this is not what you need to put in there. You need to start over. I want a different content. And I'm telling you what is now the book is really the book. And so I always try to make that commitment to Proverbs 3 and 6 says, in all thy ways, acknowledge him. That word in the original language, acknowledge means invite in. And what that means is, in all thy ways, invite him in. God is not going to, he's not a bully that he's going to come charging in because he should be there. No, he waits for you to invite him. So I always invite him in each new day, each new year before January 1. I need you to lead me and guide me as to what you would have for me to accomplish this year. And sure enough, I get inspired by the things I know I need to work on.
Said very well. Thanks for sharing, by the way. As you were
Hmm.
speaking there and being open, I'm curious for those folks that are in a relationship, right? Or a couple, right?
Yeah.
I'm married. So the question is on top of my mind is, what is one habit that Dr. Velma would recommend? Maybe there's two that we can do and practice on a daily basis. You know what I mean? So you're like, Shay, here's one or two
Of
things you can
course.
practice on a daily basis to have a healthy love relationship. What's one or two habits that I can practice on a daily basis? My wife was to say, listen, but I know there's got to be something more than that. So I'll be quiet and listen to you.
Your wife is good. What she said is so important because you'll see her heart. If you listen more, you'll get a chance to see her heart. But I just want to remind everybody that God tells us to operate in unity and agreement. He talks about two, and he talks about the three, two becoming one, but the threefold cord, he talks about himself being included in our relationship. And so always honor him and how you treat the person he's giving you. And if you do it that way, you're going to know when to say, oh, I apologize, I'm sorry. You know, you're going to know when to, oh, let me help you with this because I can see you struggling. I want to, step in and give you whatever support you need. So if you remember that you're honoring him by the way you're treating your spouse, it takes it to a whole new level because you're not going to want to disappoint God. Look, He gave me this gift. Let me not disappoint Him in how I treat this person He's given me.
I love it.
That would be the biggest one. The second
And
one
second one,
is
yeah,
to
give
know
me
who your
one more,
true enemy
please.
is. We are not, we want to put a face on the enemy. So my husband is not my enemy, and I am never his. We always stop to do a deep dive when things hit the fan and try to determine, okay, how did this happen? Because according to the scripture, we have an enemy that doesn't have a face, and he hates unity and agreement. And so it is he that will bring dissension. It is he that will bring disruption. It is he that loves to bring kind of separation and disagreements. So if you recognize who your real enemy is, you won't fight each other.
All right. And one of the questions I like to ask when we have time, we have some time now, as you were saying that is, what's one of the best pieces of advice that you've ever been given that you want to share with the audience? You've written a lot of books, read more books, I'm
Yep.
sure, did more teaching than you can
Yep.
remember, a lot of training. I always like to frame it. You had a lot of mentors and
Yep.
your faith has paved the way. But if you just say, this was one of the best pieces of advice, Shay, that I've ever been given that I just want to pass on to someone right now, what would it be and why?
It would be always have a wise counsel. And I prefer, as I was growing up and maturing as a young adult, I had older people around me who I value. People my age, you can't tell me anything. It's kind of like going to a marriage, dating, relationship coach, and you like 20 years old. Call me back when you, when you get at least 30 more years behind your plate. So I prefer having older wisdom around me, and I always have. And so I remember when my husband and I hit a rough patch and I went to my older aunt. She was 80 at the time, had been married for years. And I said, Aunt Marie, what can I do? I just think we may have gotten to that place where maybe we're done. She said in her old voice, baby, what are you going to do with all that investment you put into this man? And you should have seen my face. It was like the light bulb moment for me. And I said, what in the world did she just tell me? Wow, I hadn't thought about it that way. I have invested in this person. I have poured into this marriage relationship. And it's like taking money to the bank and then you're going to turn that bank account over to someone else. That's what she said. Are you going to take this investment and give it over to someone else? And I said to her, no one's taking my investment. No one.
Love it. What does success look like for you these days? What does it feel like for you for where you are in your life cycle?
For me, when I
Yeah.
get one response back, when I get a comment back, something I either talked about on my podcast um, or something I've written about, and I hear back from someone who heard it or someone who's read one of my books and said, wow, that really spoke to me. I had one lady who wrote about this book series, the Catch series, and she said, where was this book when I really needed this? I dated all those fish. Wow. So when I hear back from those who heard something I said or read something I've written, and it comes back positive and they appreciate what I've expressed, that to me is my trophy. That to me is my award. That to me is my validation that says you're on the right track. Your assignment is your assignment and you should continue. That does the world for me.
I love it. What's next for you? What should folks look for that you're going to be up to over the
Whew.
next year or so?
Well, this book that I have releasing, I believe it's going to be releasing next month, where I really do a deep dive and sat down with my husband and we agreed on what we wanted to share with the world about that segment of our lives that where we hit a dark place. The one that I just talked about was early on in the marriage. I was still learning how to manage and work together, but later on, we were years into the marriage when things happened. So um, I think that book is going to be what I'm excited about, and it's called in 2017. I think it was around 2017. I released a book, an ebook called My 70s Love Story, where I talk about how my husband and I met. I wrote that husband to be prayerless. Remember, by the way, he's not 6 feet tall. That's what I had on my list. And he doesn't have bowed legs. He has slewed feet. And I tell God all the time, boy, you have a sense of humor, God. You know what you're doing. And this new book is called My 70s Love Story, 50 plus years later. So I get into a deep dive about our lives. So I'm looking forward to see what people like about it and what resonates with them in the stories that we share.
Can't wait to read it. Two-part question as we come down the home stretch. Number one, what type
Mhm.
of clients is your firm looking to work with these days, if any? I don't know if you're taking on clients. And number two, how can folks get the books? How can they connect with you? How can they stay in this conversation over and beyond today? Is there a website? Like, what should they do?
Yeah, you can get the books on Amazon, of course, and I don't mind that, but you can also order direct from me if you want an autographed copy. But you can go to my website, drvelmabagby.com. I have a blog on there, so many of the things I talk about on my podcast show gets transcribed and added to my blog. I'm on all the social media platforms. All my podcasts, my Dr. Velma Talks, Godly Dating, Relationships, and Marriage, as well as Finding Your Voice podcast, which is the podcast I created as a result of corporate laryngitis because I had to spend some time leaving corporate to find my own voice. I knew the corporate's voice, but I had to find mine. So I wrote a book about it, and now I have a podcast so that I can invite others on to share with you so that you can learn from their journey as well. So, any of those, please subscribe to my YouTube channel because that's where the podcasts are live.
It's amazing. Let me say thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. Shout out to Angela for connecting us again. So we certainly appreciate that as well.
I'm glad we finally got it done.
So am I. And thank you. Thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in, by the way, because without you, well, we don't have a show. So we really appreciate you every night. I love sharing with you, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what you're going through right now, by the way, whether your life is doing really, really well and you're just going to that next level, and congratulations to you, or you've been hit with the punch that you never saw coming. The one thing I do believe is that today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason alone, I believe your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, my name is Shay Brown. I'm out. Thanks a lot, Doc. I'll see you guys on the other side. Peace. We out of here. Bye-bye for now.